Before Mr. Del Duca speaks, before Stephen speaks, say one thing off the top, and I am happy to announce today, I'm quite proud to announce today with much enthusiasm that I am supporting Stephen Del Duca for a position of leader of the Ontario Liberal Party. You can applaud if you want. Thank you very much. There are many, many reasons why I think Stephen is the right person for the job, and there are almost too many to list, but I'm certainly, Stephen is someone who understands that policies that are made down at Queen's Park do not necessarily reflect what the needs and the wishes are up in our part of the province, that's for sure, and that's a very important distinction that needs to be understood. Stephen also understands the importance of collaboration between the federal, provincial, and municipal governments, how important that is, and how we're shaping policy. We need to make sure that collaboration takes place. And in terms of policy itself, there really does need to be different policies for Northern Ontario. We have unique challenges and unique opportunities, and it's very important to understand how that is. Ultimately, though, I came down to the fact that when I was making my decision as to who I wanted to support as the new leader of our party and potentially the next premier of the province of Ontario, it came down to who did I think would understand Northern Ontario the best. I've had great experience with Stephen over the last number of years when we were in government together, particularly when he was Minister of Transportation and I was Minister of Northern Development and Mines, working together on the Northern Highways program in particular. And his understanding of Northern Ontario and there are many needs and are many challenges and opportunities, as I stated earlier, is tremendous. So it was on that basis that I made the decision to support Stephen. I have great admiration and respect for all the candidates that are in the race today. But as a sitting member of the party, I felt it was important for me to make a decision, and my decision is to support Stephen Del Duca, and I'm quite proud of that. So, Stephen, thank you very much for all the work you've done. I'm thrilled to have you here today, and I look forward to working along with you as we move towards the day of the convention, which is 2 months today.
2 months today.
Exactly. So, if I may introduce my good friend and hopefully the new leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, Stephen Del Duca.
Well, good afternoon. I am so very thrilled to be back here in Thunder Bay, here in Northern Ontario, to stand alongside my very dear friend, Michael Gravelle, and to receive his official endorsement. It's a great thrill for me to be back. I know this is a very celebratory year for Thunder Bay, the 50th anniversary of the creation of the city of Thunder Bay. I know that you've already had some celebrations with the Lieutenant Governor, certainly with more to come, I just want to say to Michael, thank you so much for making the decision to stand with me and to lend your support, Michael, to my candidacy for the leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party. Michael did acknowledge that we are joined, of course, by the Mayor of Thunder Bay, His Worship Bill Morrow. Bill served alongside of Michael and I in the legislature and in the cabinet room and in the government caucus room. Both Michael and Bill served for a number of years longer than I had the honor of serving. But I certainly saw firsthand exactly what kind of extraordinary champions Michael continues to be for Thunder Bay, for Northwestern Ontario, for all of Northern Ontario, and certainly similarly the kind of champion that Bill Morrow was when he served as an MPP colleague of ours. I want to say to Michael, Michael and I we've been talking for many, many years about the challenges that confront Northwestern and Northern Ontario, generally speaking. And Michael, I think, hit upon one of the words that I do want to emphasize as well, which is the notion of collaboration. I believe passionately that over our 15 years in power, we did accomplish a great deal for this province in terms of the progress that we were successful in delivering. And that wasn't by accident. That is because individual community champions like Michael Gravelle and like Bill Morrow worked so hard to make sure that Thunder Bay and Northern Ontario were included in profoundly important ways in the decision-making process that took place at Queen's Park. I am someone who considers Michael not only to be a friend, but someone who is an example of the kind of public servant that we need, more of the kind of public service that we need to see at Queen's Park and in our system at all levels. And to know that I'm able to count on his support and his advice and his mentorship simply means the absolute world to me. So I want to say thank you to Michael very much for your official support of my candidacy. Thank you very much, Michael. I should also say, it's great to see Bill here. We know that His Worship is doing phenomenal work as mayor, has been now for a number of months. To know that Bill is here to also offer his support and encouragement of my candidacy also means a lot to me. Bill and I have had the chance to work very closely together. As I said, the three of us and all of our caucus colleagues from the north and beyond worked very, very hard and worked collaboratively and stayed in touch with municipal leaders, believed in the notion of collaboration and partnership, and that's why I believe that we were successful in delivering on the kind of progress that Thunder Bay and that Northwestern Ontario and that all of Ontario deserves, certainly needs and deserves. So I want to thank you, Bill, for being here and for your support of my candidacy as well. Thank you very, very much. Today, in addition to receiving the support of both Michael Gravelle and Bill Morrow, I also wanted to be here to talk broadly about some of the items that are important to me as someone who is seeking the leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party. Michael's 100% right. In 2 months from literally today, the Ontario Liberal political family will gather together at a leadership convention where we will renew our leadership and chart a course before the next election campaign provincially, which will be taking place in June of 2022. And today I wanted to be here to talk a little bit about some of my ideas with respect to how we can better serve the province of Ontario, in particular, Northern Ontario. There are 10 points that are contained in my action plan for Northern Ontario. I'm not going to go through all 10 of them because you have all the documentation. I will stress that there are 2 or 3 that I just want to touch upon. But before I talk broadly speaking about what I think is important for Northern Ontario, from my perspective, I do recognize, of course, standing here today in Thunder Bay with all of you, that there are unique challenges that are faced by this community and other communities like Thunder Bay in the north and beyond. For example, talking about the fact that I know there is a crisis with respect to the opioids addiction situation that exists, the guns and gangs situation, the community safety situation, and recognizing that governments at all levels, federally, provincially, and municipally, do have that responsibility to work together to grapple with this challenge. In the coming days, I will be talking about my ideas, my strategies for all of us across this province to contend with the opioid crisis. That information will be coming out, as I said, in the near future, but I wanted to acknowledge that I know it is a significant, significant challenge for the families living here and for the leadership here in Thunder Bay, and you can count on me to be a partner that will stand shoulder to shoulder with this community and all affected communities grappling with that. I did serve, as Michael said, as the Minister of Transportation for about 3.5 years, and then I moved from that portfolio right near the end of our term in office, and I became the Minister of Economic Development and Growth. And I think it's important for me to also say, while I'm here in Thunder Bay, as the individual who had responsibility at one point for transportation, at the other point for economic development, I know that this community has had to grapple with the challenge of what's taken place with Bombardier. And I know how hard the women and men at Bombardier worked, not just for years, but for generations, to make sure that this community was economically strong and socially strong. And I recognize that there needs to be strong partnership, again, from government at all levels to make sure that we have an industrial strategy in place that protects the interests of our local economy, our regional economy. And I certainly know that Michael, most recently with his private members bill that he proposed, and Michael and Bill collectively through many years, both in the caucus room and in the cabinet room and in the legislature and elsewhere, were extraordinarily strong champions to make sure that we were protecting the interests of those people who are working, for example, in places like Bombardier. And I believe there is more work for us to do in that regard. Just 3 of the points that I want to highlight from the 10 points that are contained in my action plan for Northern Ontario, the Ontario North Action Plan, as we are officially calling it. I want to start off by talking about the need to make sure that we continue to invest in critically important highway infrastructure across Ontario, across Northern Ontario. And by that specifically, I mean that I believe it's important for us to make a collective commitment to the 4-laning of the Trans-Canada Highway from Quebec to Manitoba. And I know through the 15 years that we were in power, because of Michael, because of Bill, because of others in the government at Queen's Park under the Liberal leadership, we were able to make significant progress. I know that there is a lot more work that needs to be done. I think what we need to be talking about is a long-term partnership between the province of Ontario and the government of Canada to make sure that we are making an investment to 4-lane the Trans-Canada from border to border over a horizon of time that is reasonable and is believable and is something that can be supported. I know, as I said a second ago, tremendous progress is already being made. I'm a strong supporter of continuing that progress, whether we're talking about the 4-laning of the section from Thunder Bay to Nipigon, whether we're talking about the Sudbury to Parry Sound expansion, whether we're talking about the very strong need to see from Kenora to the Manitoba border, continued expansions. I think each of those particular components of the Trans-Canada are important. But I think from border to border, we are at a point now in our province's history where, working with our federal partners, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to say we are equal partners. We are both equally committed to this nation-building exercise, which is important, of course, for our economy and our regional economic development and our goods movement. But it's just as, if not more important, for the safety of the traveling public. And the women and men of Northern Ontario deserve to have governments at Queen's Park and in Ottawa who will work collaboratively to make sure that that highway infrastructure is built and is in place in as short a period of time as is reasonable.